Hey team, Craig Robbins coming back at you, talk to you about today about effective language and effective thinking in business. What you're going to find is that there are people that walk around and they're effective, they get a lot accomplished, and there's another group of people that they're not effective and they talk a lot, but there isn't a lot happening. And I'm going to show you how language creates that. Language is what gets things done in business. Effectively coordinating action is usually done through language. Most of your work is coordinated through language, which we are in a language-based business. So I'm going to talk with you about the difference between certain kinds of speech patterns and speaking that effectively move the ball forward and some that don't. So let me start off with just an overall picture. You go to a football game, okay? You're watching the football game. There are two things happening in the game. There's a group of people down on the field and they're making things happen. They're performing for you. They're actually coordinating action to get something done, okay? And then there's a bunch of people in the stands all the way around, and those people are basically sitting around making assessments and judgments about what the people down there on the field are doing. Here's the interesting part. The people getting paid are down there on the field. The people that are paying to watch and make their judgments are in the stands. And it's the same thing in your office. It's the same thing on your teams. You'll find out that people in your office either are getting things done or they're sitting around making assessments and talking about how things need to get done. And we're going to call those things something. I'm going to show them to you right now. I'm going to share that with you. This is judgmental versus performative speaking. Okay, judgmental speaking is a concept that we'll talk about, but I want to make sure that you know the difference between these two. It's really an important concept. Two types of those are happening all around you all the time. Performative speaking is the speaking language of action. What you'll find is that to speak performatively helps you work in action. And it basically is you can declare, you can promise, you can request, or you can assert. Those four things move the ball forward on a team more than anything at all. So you want to think about how to speak in those four language patterns. The fifth language pattern is one called judging, okay? And so judging is all about assessment. It's around people sitting there and assessing. Okay, so we're going to talk about the differences between those two languages as we go forward. Okay, so let's start with performative. So performative is about moving things forward. So let's start with the first one. Declaration is a promise for the future. A promise for the future. I declare to go to the moon and come back in this decade. That was JFK's promise for the future. We will go take over this market. We will be the best leasing team in the downtown for tenant rep. These are promises for the future. People get a chance to either choose or not choose with declarations, okay? The second one is a promise for now, and this is basically saying, I promise right now that we'll do something, okay? So I promise I will do that. It's a handshake, and you move on. It's a promise for now, okay? Then there's a request, and that is, I promise to be satisfied if you do something, okay? So I promise to be satisfied if you follow through with something. So you want to talk about a request is a promise to be satisfied in the future. And then finally, there's assert. Assert says, I promise to provide evidence. I will show you that we know what it takes to win this game. So the assertion's super important in every business, and it is very different than assessment. Assessment is just, hey, I think this about Bob. Assertion is, let me show you the data on how this guy is operating. That showing the data, CFOs are all about assertions. They're not about assessments, they're about assertions. They have to come up with back everything that they're doing. And you have to basically assert as well. You have to tell people, I'm gonna get you the best deal in the market. And then you have to prove it to them, okay? Now, judgmental speaking, it's a very different kind of speaking pattern. It's a speaking of assessments. And what you'll find is that a lot of people don't know the difference between making a judgmental conversation and thinking they're moving the ball forward. They sit around and talk about how this doesn't work, that doesn't work, the system's broken, you're broken, I'm broken, we're broken, something's not going the way I want it to. That's all basically somebody sitting around and making a bunch of assessments, and it's not effective unless it's converted. But a lot of people are really sensitive to assessments. And the reason they're sensitive to this assessments and judgments is because you grew up and other people judged you and you became really hyper attuned to that. And you saw that if somebody had a really good judgment of you, that it really hurts. So you think, wow, this is really valuable. I mean, all those people sitting around making those judgments, that could really hurt me. But in business, it doesn't move you forward. It doesn't move your project forward. Sitting around, it stops everything. So I'm not saying to stop and eliminate this language. What I'm saying is that you need to figure out how to convert this language. One isn't better than the other, because a lot of times when people judge and assess, they're trying to create a bond with each other. Hey, we're commiserating. We both don't like things. Let's talk about how crummy things are, and then we'll both share a beer together, and we'll talk about it. So remember, it's not bad. It's just ineffective at moving the ball forward, but it is effective a lot of times at creating relationship. So you got to know the difference between the two skills. But in order to move the ball forward, you need to convert that assessment into an assertion, or into a declaration, or into a promise, or into a request. You've got to make those kinds of moves to make it work. So the conversion is the way to go. If you can't convert, you are wasting your time. So conversations that cannot convert are a waste of time. So here's what I'd like you to do. This week, what I'd like you to do is see if you can focus on your team and see if you're seeing effective conversations, if you're seeing effective performative versus judgmental conversations on your team. And whenever you drop into one, make sure that the person talking, including yourself, knows which one you're in. And so if you find yourself, because you're going to be really surprised, you're going to find yourself having a lot of judgmental conversations. And if you're there, here's the key. The key is, what is the underlying request? What is the request that's being made? So if somebody says, like, I wish, the management would do something around here, then don't just make it out into the space. Go to management and say, can you do this? Convert your assessments into assertions or requests or promises or declarations. The conversion will make everything go right for you. So this week, your job is to go with your teams and check that out. I think you're going to find some great success. So go for it. Make it happen in the market, folks. Good luck.